Well, good morning, fellow humans. It's been a while since we've spoken. Um, yeah, it's been quite a while, actually. The world has changed about 42 times since then. Been a lot of news, a lot of trauma, a lot of living. A lot of people's lives have changed since we spoke last. But yeah, so I'm not going to apologize for kind of disappearing. Really, like I keep saying, I'm still learning how to do a lot of this and how I want to move forward. And I also, and you know, I've spent since we've spoken, I've whew, excuse me. Oh my goodness. Since we've spoken, I've gained some more clarity on this project and how it fits in with some of my other projects, etc. So I'm excited about that, and I have kind of been focusing on other aspects of this project to try to get some of these established things off the ground. I know that all sounds very vague, and that's on purpose, and that's okay, because you know, at the end of the day, if you're actually listening to this, firstly, you are a select group of people. I am not, and have not yet done any kind of link or distribution that this media exists. And you know, I'm sure that that day is coming, but it's not here yet. So I'm going to keep working on this, keep working on the medium and my understanding of it, so that I can more effectively communicate. In conjunction with that, like you know, I haven't really spoken a lot about how these expressions are going to emerge, but I also have a Substack of the same name, Set Truth Free 123. You know, my website, settruthfree.com, is really nascent. There's not a lot on there, mostly placeholders and kind of fiddlings. Um, you know, it's funny because I have my background is technologic in nature, and I have a contiguous view of the intersection between technology and humans, for lack of a better term. And I have experienced things like blogging before. In the 90s, I had a pretty successful kind of canonical blog where I would get on and kind of pontificate and share in a kind of more of a social media canonical way. Well, I mean, it was the 90s, but I had a decent audience, and I wound up going through kind of my own hero's journey, and that effort kind of fell by the wayside. There's still a lot of my writings are still out there, but in a very disjointed manner. In fact, one of the things that I want to try to do is kind of consolidate that, revise some of these things, revise and kind of retread some of the work that I've done in the past, because firstly, you know, as we grow older, as humans grow older, we begin to gain more clarity, or at least perspective. And yeah, I mean, I'm blessed with a lot of perspective. So my worldview, of course, has either sharpened or changed or been refined over time. So there are some themes that I've written about in the past that I would like to kind of revisit. Some of those things, you know, well, a flexible intellect, or at least a internally consistent seeker of truth, always has to face the reality that our understanding of truth develops over time, and that intrinsically means that some of the things that we have held in the past as axioms may still be the truth, but you gain nuance in your understanding of the universe as you grow older. that's that's the hope anyway. Because as I keep saying, or maybe I haven't, I'm not sure. That's going to be a problem. I'm not entirely sure what I say. So, well, that's the wrong way to say that. Um, I cannot sometimes remember what I have said in what format. We'll put it that way. I have kind of temporal fuzziness when it comes to my brain, etc. So anyway, um, I think one of the things I want to try to do is to mine for those older ideas and kind of bring those thought seeds up to speed or up to par, and perhaps the good ones, recraft into so that it makes kind of, I guess you could call it the media jump, or at least the consolidation jump. Um, so yeah. Anyway, since we spoke last, a lot has changed. I mean, we are living in the time of the Cold Civil War, so every day, especially right now, every minute sometimes, things are fundamentally changing the landscape of this particular battlefield of the democratic battlefield. The war, I guess you could say. I don't even like using that word. Because, yeah, the evolution of democracy in the United States, we are kind of, we and the world are going through a moment in history, as we all know. I mean, I don't have to convince you of that. Unless you're like living under a rock, and even then, that rock's probably getting a little warm because of the sun, etc., or drowned, or shot at, or turned into dust because of drone strikes. The world is changing, and one of the things since we've talked that I have been privileged to do is to make a pilgrimage to Gettysburg. My best friend and I, we went to a miniature wargaming convention in that area in Pennsylvania, and that in and of itself is a really beautiful story, a really interesting kind of set of experiences that I personally have had. I'm not a war gamer. I'm not a miniature war gamer. Obviously I'm a nerd of my ilk, so I have done plenty of gaming, quote unquote. But like my friends say, I'm a hobbyist gamer. The game itself is interesting, but I'm far more interested in the people. And games tend to be a medium for that. But so which is why I kind of have participated. Anyway, whatever. So the miniature wargaming community, the national community, is a fascinating subculture that I have not really delved into. I really, really like kind of this again sounds weird. I really like exposing myself to different subcultures and different worldviews and different experiences, and sometimes that gets me into some of the crazy, seedy parts of the world. But in this case, it was really a lovely experience with my best friend and his family. And, there was a lot of subcontext to this, what I'm calling a pilgrimage. One of the things that was a bit challenging to me was this is the first, I'm a relatively newlywed to my wife, and this was the first time we've been alone apart for this amount of time. I was gone for I was gone for a week, and so that had its own connotations. I don't like experiencing things without my partner, but I do need to, and that dichotomy is as a function of us and our relationship growth. It was difficult. I don't want to say there was separation anxiety, because that's a clinical term. And I don't think that it rises to that, but certainly it was an adjustment. It's the longest, like I said, we've been apart for I think ever since our relationship. So that had some interesting connotations, some interesting kind of um, mental and emotional experiences, but then also, going to pilgrimage on the battlefield of Gettysburg. Especially, I'd never been in my life so far. There's family history associated with my family, and it's been the Civil War, which kind of, that sounds aggrandizing. If you're an American and your family's been here for a little bit, the Civil War is part of your family history. That's just it. But I had never been there, and I have a lot of thoughts around that pilgrimage and around that sacred ground and around my experiences there, and going through that process with my best friend who we've traveled the world together. We have experienced collectively, he and I, we've probably seen the best, the very best, and the very worst of humanity, and sometimes in the same room. And he's my brother in every sense of the word, but he's also quite knowledgeable and in terms of hopology, human combative behavior, etc. We are both students of Mars, as it were, to the point that sometimes it's a little bit isolating. The relationship that we have with death is intimate, as far as just to kind of encapsulate it, and so my best friend, he has been to Gettysburg quite a number of times for various reasons. I had never been. I think that unconsciously, I have kind of not avoided it, but it just wasn't the right time. And so going through pilgrimage with someone like that who sees the ghosts, talks to them, feels them, is very knowledgeable in combative behavior, very knowledgeable in the realities of war, and the sacrifices required to wage war, both in flesh and in spirit. That experience, I am probably going to wind up needing quite a while to really kind of ingest. Yeah. So we went to all of the major plot points, for I guess you could call them, on the battlefield. We had a very thorough, very powerful experience together, and yeah. So I'm an amateur photographer, so I took some great photographs. If I do say so myself, it's a very photogenic area. The ghosts have kind of set themselves up pretty well. Gettysburg, I read at one point, is how the veterans of that war wanted their war and their conflict to be remembered. It was a focal point of that human experience in the 1860s, of the kind of convulsions of our nation as it came to grips with the original sin of our nation, which really was slavery, industrialized slavery, and and the continuation of the conflict after, because after Gettysburg, the war went on for quite a while longer, and then after the disillusion. After the public disillusionment of the Confederacy, that conflict continued. And it's just the tactics changed, and instead of flesh, they were The war was of the spirit and of culture and of yeah, of using religion to control and foster the conflict. Fast forward to now, I think that's one of the reasons why the serendipity or the divine or the human pattern, whatever you want to call that, which I would love. I'm going to talk about in the future about the concept of God, etc., the concept of patterns, the concept of Om, all of that stuff. Fascinating, but not today. But where was I? Oh, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, doesn't matter. So it was a very powerful experience, and in conjunction with that, I don't have a very big family, and the people that I do care about are very impactful to me. How they, I have a short list of folks whose opinion matters to me. That is both liberating, but also isolating, and also kind of scary, because one of the things that I have been experiencing in this especially last year to 2 years, and really since I was married in April, and that rite of passage has its own kind of connotation, etc. And I the wedding that my lady and I created was, in my opinion, a tremendous work of art. But just like all art, it doesn't. It challenges, and it challenged me, and it challenged. When you bring together that short list of people, and or at least you find out where they are, and you have to correlate that with weddings, funerals, these types of kind of rites of passage really are kind of touch points for human relationship and families. In the context of my having a very kind of elitist attitude when it comes to my friends or the acquaintances or my family, whatever, however you want to define those three circles, it was really challenging. And then it was kind of, in some ways, a swan song of an age that that world doesn't exist anymore, and it was only a number of months ago, which is how these things happen. When the world changes, that's how it works. So all of that, to sum all of that up, it's been, like I said, a while since we've spoken, and there's been a lot that has gone on and a lot that I've experienced, and so I'm kind of behind, but I'm not. There's a lot of these storylines are still highly active that I want to talk about, and so I tend to not be someone that just kind of spouts off the cuff. So I tend to wait to kind of speak about a subject until that kind of, at least the picture is developed a little bit, which is difficult when you're living in history. And really at its core, that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this, or I want to do this. I want to share this as a touch point. A touch point of experience, kind of in the moment, and what it's like to live in a moment like this as my own life moves forward and my eventual death in the future. Kind of laying the hope is that I'm laying down the coal beds in the zeitgeist of history, and my experiences are just as legitimate as anyone else's, and my experiences, I think, have value. Whatever, that's it. So That's kind of an update. 20 minutes into this video. I have a lot more to say. I just kind of wanted to kind of prime the pump again to just sit down in front of this camera and talk to you and start moving forward again. Because, like I said, there have been some challenges, and there's been some victories, and then there's been some defeats. And my heart and my spirit are like yours, and I am going through a process of both emotional and spiritual trauma, but also refinement and a distillation of what is important and what I need to be doing in this moment. So that's it. I'm going to upload this, and my sister and I are working on the next step of this project. I'm excited about it. And again, one of the things that happened while I was gone from you was, we're connecting on a much deeper level than we ever have. I left home when I was 17 years old, 17, 18, depending on how fast the screen door closes is, you get the point. And she, she's a younger sibling, and she had a life with my family that I didn't, for a lot of different reasons, not the least of which is that I'm not afraid to call a reality. We lived in a Christian fundamentalist cult, and her experiences are different than mine. Because of the kind of fundamentalist mindset and what you do with male and female children, and kind of the worldview. Even when I was at home, our experiences were completely different. And then I left, and she stayed home, of course, and had a wonderful life to some extent. Life is always a challenge, but she knew my folks, my father and father, in a different light than I did, and also we knew each other in a different light, somewhat filtered by other people's agendas. And in the later, in the over the hill stages of my life, where the reward for survival is becoming gradually more decrepit. The other function of that is that you begin to truly not care. That's the wrong word. You begin to shed the control mechanisms that others have laid upon you, especially when you talk about religious cults and the kind of the manipulation associated with that, the control mechanisms of thought and guilt and all kinds of things. But as you move forward in life and you see more and more dead bodies, those things the lies start crumbling, and the mechanisms whereby those lies were used begin to fail. I'm not sure where I was going with that, other than, predictably, when you set truth free, challenges come out of the woodwork. And part of those challenges has been the disillusionment of some folks that I truly, truly still care about. But it's a common shared experience that of familial loss, of friendship loss in this day and age, just because of the nature of the conflict. And when people show you who they are, you have to reconcile that with what you thought they were. And also you need to understand where that leaves you. And a lot of those things are not easy to think about, or not easy to deal with. And the loss of, I mourn the loss of some of my people. Not from a physical standpoint, but from a communion standpoint. That's the nature of life. We all change if we don't die. And even if we do die, we do, the world changes around us. But that the shared experience of this point in history is going to be, should be, studied and understood as long as the light of reason and human thought and intellect and morality and democracy wins. We must. And our biggest, greatest tool is that our enemy is fundamentally and by definition delusional and cannot see. That's a function of oligarchy, right? And of cults, isolationism from reality, and then the reconciliation of that reality when the laws of nature, time, and man begin to reassert themselves, and that's where we're at. And I don't know what the world is going to be like tomorrow, much less this afternoon, much less next year, or hopefully after my death. So good men, good women, we just have to embrace this experience and do what we can every day to foster the light of compassion and human existence and human reason and goodness and morality and representational government and human dignity. We have to keep fostering that. And sometimes that's a big thing, sometimes that's a little thing, and most of the time it's just a little thing. It's continuing, in spite of the mounting evidence to the contrary, continuing to try to treat humans like humans. Now, that does not mean you need to understand, and your enemies need to understand, courtesy is not weakness. There is a difference. I'm not telling you to turn the other cheek. That's not me. I'm telling you that when you deal with the problem, you better be righteous, or you're part of the problem, not part of the solution. So, anyway, have a wonderful day, and I feel determined, not energized, determined to continue to move forward with this project, and there'll be more to come. And I'm excited. I don't want to use the word excited. Like I said, I'm determined because being self-aware is important. I'm a decent person, all things being equal. And it is important for me to be vulnerable and share who I actually am and what my experiences are during this time. And hopefully that doesn't make me a target. It makes me a piece. It makes me representational art. And I think that's my goal, to live an artful life and all the connotations that stirs up. So anyway, have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.